I saw Jen. Did you drive separately or? Hi.
Things up there.
Yes, please. Yes, that'd be great. Yes, yeah, that'll be great.
I'm in my early
You
30s.
know what the
I was still chief of homicide then. The Julio that used to represent the state of Florida.
just tell them they're good. Yeah. Okay. Oh, good.
He was 42.
Everyone want to turn their mics on, please? Good evening, everyone. We're calling to order the May 28th City Commission meeting of Daytona Beach Shores. We're going to have a call to order, but if you notice, we have taken our city clerk out of her little dungeon where she couldn't see anything, and she will now be sitting up with us on the dais, so she knows everything that's going on. So welcome, Sherry, to the dais, and if you can take a roll, please.
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Vice Mayor Politis,
Here.
Commissioner Card,
Here.
Commissioner Conway,
Here.
and Commissioner Dembinski is excused tonight.
Thank you. Reverend Bob, can you come up and start us on our invocation today? I think you have an announcement before we get started.
Yes, just want to make sure that everyone knows they're invited to join us for movie nights, Movie Mania, later on this in June. It's not quite June yet. I'm in June already. But it's June 23rd, 25th, and 27th. And the movies are, and I think they're in this order, Barbie, Wonka, and Migration.
Great.
I'm so glad they were one-word names because I could remember them. Barbie, Wonka, and Migration. It should be a lot of fun.
Before you go on, I just want to say this is something we always debate how many years we've been doing. We think 8 or 9. You know?
I'm going with 9.
Okay, we're going with 9. But anyway, these are put on in a partnership, on the wonderful partnership we have with the Drive-In Christian Church and the City of Daytona Beach Shores. And if you want to see heartfelt young children coming, you know, with parents, because this is completely free. You know, so they get to see a wonderful Disney movie for free. There's snacks that are $1, so it's a very, very cheap evening for them and a lot of entertainment. So please stop by and come with all the fun. We have usually about 3 different businesses that either do popcorn. Do you know who we're having this year? I know we have. Do you know who we're having this year?
I think
Sundays,
it's,
popcorn.
Oceans Luxury
Okay.
Realty and Realty Pros are our 2 sponsors. If there's a business in the chamber tonight that would like to be our 3rd sponsor, we'd be glad to talk with you about that.
Yes, thank you. And, you know, and it doesn't have to be much, you know,
No.
to come by, right?
No.
And we'd love to have anyone that has a business in the shores or not in the shores, if you'd like to be one of our sponsors, please let us know. And, okay, thank you so much for that, if you want to lead us. in-
Sure, let's stand. Gracious God, we do feel the heat of summer beginning to set in and all of the excitement of school coming to an end and graduations happening and so many exciting things going on. But tonight we come focused on the business at hand for this commission and the work that they do. We pray your guidance and your direction for the decisions that will be made in these chambers tonight. We thank you for the opportunity we have as Daytona Beach Shores to welcome so many people over the summer months to enjoy the ocean beaches and to enjoy the amenities of our city. And we pray their safe arrival and safe return home as well. We thank you for the public safety folks who keep us safe while we are enjoying our summer activities and keep those safe who are coming to our city to enjoy their summer vacations. And we pray that you will keep them safe this summer and return them to their families safely after each shift. Be with our staff and all who give of themselves and their talents to make sure the city runs well and that all who live here are considered. We ask that you would allow this council, this commission, to conduct its business with the welfare of the citizens in mind. And we pray these things as we ask it in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I guess, I don't want to recognize myself. Are you doing
Yes,
this?
Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. It's my honor to announce that the Mayor Nancy Miller has been recognized as a Home Rule Hero by the Florida League of Cities. I believe this is the third year, Mayor?
I believe it's a third, yes.
So, I have a very nice letter included in the agenda from Dan Daly, who is the House Representative from District 96. And just so people know what the Home Rule Hero means, it's about safeguarding home rule, meaning the control stays at the local level. The state likes to take our authority away at the local level, and the mayor has been a strong advocate for keeping those rights here at home. So thank you, Mayor, and not only for a home rule here, but she's been a strong advocate for hurricanes and other issues.
And this is what I was meant to do. I mean, you elected me to represent you, and advocacy is very, very important to me. So my voice, make sure it's heard in the county and in the state on behalf of all of you. But thank you very much, and I appreciate getting this award. Okay, the next thing, Stuart, I know I announced it a little bit in advance about our new planner. I don't know, can we take a minute to just announce who we've selected, or did I rush the gun again? Okay. I'm just so proud of this.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. It's my pleasure to formally announce in public that the new city planner for the city of Daytona Beach Shores is our former code enforcement officer. She's been with the city for almost 18, 19 years, and she's just a pleasure to work with. She's one of the most brilliant minds that we have in the city, and her enthusiasm never fails, just like this mic does.
Yeah, and I wanted to make sure we did that. She has just been a fantastic, very thorough code enforcement officer. And if you remember, this is the position that Noel, who did a very, very good job. Noel elected to leave us and go to Ormond, but it's opening up the opportunity for someone that we expect great and mighty things for. So Gwen, congratulations. Okay, next we're going to go on to approval of minutes. The first one that I'm going to ask you for approval for is the City Commission workshop minutes from May 14th. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I so move.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. So we have a motion from the Vice Mayor and a second from Commissioner Economos. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Okay, if no discussion, Sherry, can you take a vote on that, please?
Vice Mayor Politis?
Yes.
Commissioner Economos?
Yes.
Commissioner Card?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, so the motion passes 4-0. Next, we'll go on to the City Commission meeting minutes of May 14th. Again, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes of the commission meeting?
Also move.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. So this time we have Commissioner Economos with the motion and the second by our Vice Mayor. Any comments or any questions on the minutes from May 14th? If
Is that the
not,
minutes or was that the workshop?
that one was the minutes. The first one was the workshop.
Okay.
Was that okay?
Yes, did we finish at 5:47?
Yes, for
Really,
the
that early?
workshop.
Okay.
For the workshop, and then we started the regular meeting at 6. Is that okay?
No, I'm confused. My thing tells me the minutes, city commission meeting, May 14th, and it says it finished at 5:47, so maybe workshop to do. Maybe I hadn't had my second cup of coffee.
Okay. Sherry, can you check it to make sure?
It says we ended at 7:21.
Oh, mine says 5:47.
Okay,
Okay.
but that was probably the workshop.
minutes. Go to page 12 of 112.
Okay.
One moment, please. We want to make sure we get this right.
That's okay, mine is just mislabeled, it's all right.
Okay, all right. We'll
See,
try.
I'm on it.
Yeah, we are.
Never mind.
Something like that. Okay, so now, we're already done with the workshop. So now we have Commissioner Economos that said the motion, the Vice Mayor second, and if there was no other discussion, Sherry, can you take a vote on that, please?
Commissioner Economos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Politis?
Yes.
Commissioner Carr?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. Again, 4-0 passing, thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda. We have 6 items on the consent agenda. Do I need to pull any of those, or can we approve the 6 agenda items under consent?
Also move.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. So Commissioner Economos, motion, Commissioner Carr, second. Any discussion? If not, Sherry, to take a roll, please.
Commissioner Economos?
Yes.
Commissioner Carr?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Politis?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. 4-0. And next, we're going to go on to old business. So for those of you that were not there last week, contrary to some of the untruths and rumors going around, it is not, repeat again, it is not the commission that decides on this. All the commission does is put it on a ballot for the August timeframe. So we did give approval. We will have a old business right now with a second vote. So before we read this ordinance, I wanted to make sure you know all we did was give the vote that approve it under a first reading. And now we're on to second reading of old business. Attorney Vos, can you read that ordinance for us, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. This is ordinance number 2024-17 on second reading. An ordinance of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Florida, proposing a charter amendment increasing the term limits for city commissioners and the mayor of the city from 2 4-year terms to 3 4-year terms, calling for a referendum on the proposed amendment to the charter to be held at the primary election on August 20th, 2024, providing the ballot title and ballot summary for the referendum, providing for direction to the city clerk, and coordination with the Volusia County Supervisor of Elections, providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Again, this is, it will be on the ballot. I want to make sure everyone understands this is not eliminating term limits. We still will have term limits. What we're asking for, instead of 2 4-year terms, it would be 3 4-year terms. Let me let you know too that in all of Volusia County, this will still be the most restrictive that we have in any of the 16 cities. Again, not doing away with term limits, just extending them. We went over all of the reasons why last time. Again, I'm speaking for myself here, but if you have any questions whatsoever, this is the time. I would like anyone to come up, ask any questions, anything that you need clarified. This is a public talk that we can have now. Does anyone out there have anything to say? Okay, if not, do I hear a motion to ordinance 2024 acceptance?
I so move.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, so Commissioner Card made the motion, our Vice Mayor seconded. Any discussion on this whatsoever?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Last time, for those that weren't here, it's not about getting the mayor in for another 4 years after she finishes her 4-year term. It's about continuity. As a city commissioner, we're allowed to be up here currently for 2 4-year terms. It makes it difficult, if not impossible, for that city commissioner to then elevate to the ability of a leadership role and become a mayor. The other problem that we're having is, well, two. One is we're a very small community, so we don't have a large pool of people who are willing to run. And then most recently, the legislature required people to, what's the word I want to use? You have to file a Form 6, which is a much, much more expansive financial report, to kind of get rid of any potential conflicts of interest or appearances of impropriety or what we see in national news and all the craziness. I'll tell you something. I sat down with my office manager and my finance department this morning, and I was still contemplating whether to file Form 6. Not because I have anything to hide, it's just because it is such a detailed financial statement. They want to know everything I own, all the stock portfolios, all the banks, all the real estate. It is very, very invasive in your personal financial life. That is probably the third reason why we're having a concern. The smart thing about this commission and our mayor is that we think of problems before they become a big problem. In other words, it's easier to put out the fire when it's relatively small and plan for the future. So this is about providing good government to the people. There's no agenda. Believe me, I don't want to be up here anymore. I enjoy my Tuesday nights. I could do plenty of other things. But I was asked to participate, and I actually enjoy it. And I do it with all my heart. I don't have an agenda. It doesn't benefit me business-wise. However, with the limited pool of interested people, with the Form 6 making people less inclined to want to join, and we already had a gentleman who came, the gentleman that owns the hotel with his wife, that live on the ocean. Anyway, I forget his name. I think it's John.
John Dennis.
Okay, John. He said, I wanted to be a city commissioner, but I ain't disclosing my finances. We lost Mel. We lost Richard Bryan. So it goes without saying, we're trying to anticipate potential problems in the future. So the mayor is accurate 100%. It's not getting rid of term limits. It's extending it one more term in an effort to provide continuity to the commission, so that's the way you get good quality governing and legislating, and we don't drive the city staff crazy. So that's all my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. I want to tell you how invasive it is really. I have to claim the rings on my finger. I have to claim the mattress, anything over $1,000. So you think of what's in your household worth $1,000. The mattress, the refrigerator. I mean, it is just truly an invasion of privacy. I think they probably had good intent on maybe some places that, with developers and pockets. But, for this one, it's very, very invasive. One of my friends from another city has told me she's worked on it for 8.5 hours and still is not complete. I mean, that's how detailed it is. So, again, that's one of the reasons why. So we want you to vote whichever way that you feel that you want to do, but we want to make sure you fully understand what's going on. So I think we have a motion and a second. I think we had our discussion. Anything else that we need to say? If not, Sherry, can you take a vote on that, please?
Commissioner Card?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Politis?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, 4-0, thank you. Okay, now we're going to go on to new business, and this is ordinance 2024. It's a development agreement application. Attorney Vos, can you read that for us, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is ordinance 2024-19, an ordinance of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Florida, relating to approval of a development agreement pertaining to properties owned by Daytona Ocean Investment Corp. And Hotel Motel LLC, in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 15 of the Land Development Code and the Florida Local Government Development Agreement Act as set forth in Section 163.3220 through 163.3243 Florida statutes, providing for implementing administrative actions, providing for conflicts, providing for a savings provision in the effect of the ordinance, providing for severability, providing for codification, as well as the correction of scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Attorney.
Thank you,
Director
Madam Mayor.
Cruz?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Stuart Cruz, Community Service Director with the City of Daytona Beach Shores. As the City Attorney just read the short title of Ordinance 2024-19, I just want to share with everyone that the subject of this particular ordinance is a development agreement between the city, proposed development agreement between the City of Daytona Beach Shores and Daytona Ocean Investment Corp. And Hotel Motel LLC. The address for this particular development, if it were to be approved by the City Commission, would be from 2601 through 2613, South Atlantic Avenue, which encompasses 4 properties. The northernmost property is the Seascape Motel at 2601 South Atlantic, and the southernmost property is 2613 South Atlantic Avenue, which would be Emerald Shores. And in between, there's two 25-foot wide properties. If you were to drive by, you would probably miss it because they're so tiny. The entire development site is plus or minus 3 acres, and as I mentioned earlier, the owner, developer, and applicant is, or are, Daytona Ocean Investment Corp. And Hotel Motel LLC, which are actually owned by the same management team. The proposed development is for an 8-story, 101-unit Cambria Hotel Resort. So this development would actually take place on the Seascape Motel property. So the Seascape Motel, which is the 3-story, I believe 45-unit outdated motel, would be demoed, and the new building would be placed on top of that property. And so in addition to actually just having an actual hotel resort, there would also be accessory uses, that are common, so you have a restaurant, you have a pool, you're gonna have parking, essentially anything that's incidental to the use of the primary use of as a hotel. The Emerald Shores property and hotel itself would remain the same, so nothing's gonna happen there except for the northernmost property line for the Emerald Shores is gonna be shifted down about 14 feet to the south in order to accommodate the Cambria Hotel and actually have more setback to the north in between the showroom condo and the actual Cambria Hotel. So the density, in terms of the highlights of this development agreement, density is one thing that is articulated in there. So typically your density is measured from the seawall or the bulkhead line. The density would be measured from the mean high water line, and that is how the development would actually get to 101 units. And you hear 101 units, and that number is really important to bring a brand in, a national flagship brand into the city, and any city for that matter. You typically need at least 100 units. So the duration of the agreement would be 3 years for a building permit issuance and payment of permit fees, and 5 years to receive final certificate of occupancy. So there is a team from the developer's side of this proposal, and I don't want to steal their thunder, but today we were talking with another member of the team, and they did say that if this is approved, they're going to be submitting plans directly to the city almost immediately, and it should take about a year or so to get those plans approved, and they're hoping thereafter to break ground, and construction would take about 18 months. I would give them 18 to 24, but basically this would fall in between the timeline that you see in the development agreement in the event that there's another pandemic or some other crazy thing happening in the world or in the environment. So in order to make this development occur, there's 4 deviations from the city's land development code that are being proposed in there, and I'll go over those in a little bit. But standard in the development agreement is administrative adjustments that would be allowed by staff up to 10% of certain requirements. This would exclude building height and density and things of that nature. So in other words, if there is a deviation that comes forward or a request by the developer to increase building height or anything like that, it would basically have to come back to the commission for approval. So staff is only allowed to approve administratively if this agreement is approved, just minor things. Additionally, in the development agreement is a waiver of the public beach access requirement. You may recall, if you have driven by or been to the Emerald Shores property, that there's actually a 7-foot public beach access that is there, and that was actually provided by the developer at the time when the Emerald Shores was developed. So a public beach access already exists there. In addition, as I just mentioned earlier, if there's anything substantial that happens in terms of the approval process after the development agreement or during construction, the development agreement would have to come back before commission for approval. And of course, after this, if this is approved, this development is approved, a full-blown site plan would be submitted to the Planning and Zoning Board and to the City Commission for approval. So this doesn't cover the number of trees and little things like that. Those would be covered through the site development plan process. So as I just mentioned, there are 4 deviations that are being proposed or requested by the developer. The first is parking. So under the city's code right now for the development, 102 parking spaces would be required. So the plan that you'll see in a minute, and you may have seen in your staff report, proposes 75 parking spaces. Some of them are under the building, and some of them are actually outside the perimeter of the building. In addition to that, there would be 20 double-stacked parking spaces underneath the building as well. So basically, they would have a total of 95 units. And also, through the development agreement, the developer is making it a requirement, a self-imposed requirement to utilize valet parking. So the second deviation that's being requested regards building setback. And as I mentioned earlier, so The Cambria setback is 35 feet on each side. What is being requested is on the south side that the setback only be 11 feet. When you look at the plan, you'll see that on the north side, 69 feet is actually being proposed. So when you add those two together, you have 80 feet. So the overall setback requirement is 70 feet, but they're providing an additional 10 feet. And the whole concept behind that was to move the building as far away as possible from the Sherwin condo to give them more view space. You'll also see that there are some deviations that are being requested for Emerald Shores building. Now, the Emerald Shores building is built already, so this would just basically memorialize the nonconformity of the existing Emerald Shores setbacks. The third deviation that's being requested regards loading zones. So essentially right now under the city's code, 2 loading zones are required. So 1 loading zone is required for every 100,000 gross floor area of the site, of the building. The building right now is about 103,000, so it's just at that point right now, that sweet spot, if you will. So, you know, this is an insignificant from staff's perspective deviation that's been requested. The other deviation and final deviation is for green area. And so you will see in the chart and in your staff report that 20% of the area is supposed to be green area. What they're proposing is 17%. And if you visit the site right now, you'll see that generally there's no green area on the site. So the 17% that they're going to be adding onto the property is actually almost a 10% increase in terms of what's there right now, because there's absolutely nothing there. So in your staff report, you'll see that there is a criteria outlined in section 14-4.a of the city's land development code. This table just essentially summarizes those criteria, and essentially what it does is it shows that all those criteria have been met. And those are basically components that the code requires to be included in development agreement, and those are included in development agreement. So due public notice has been met. I'll just show real quickly to the audience and to those who are not familiar with the site. This is the development site. To the north or to the top, you'll see the old Seascape Motel, and these are the 2 little 25-foot wide properties that I mentioned earlier. And then this one to the bottom is the Emerald Shores Motel. This is a street view of the site. You can see to the left is the Seascape Motel, and to the right is Emerald Shores, and in between are the 2 25-foot wide properties. And essentially this line that you see here, this dashed line, is the limits, the illustrative limits of the development. This is a site plan concept plan that you saw in your staff report. There are 2 access onto the property. Actually, it's an in and an out type flow, circulation for vehicles on the property. This gives you a better view. So the blue, as you can see, is the building footprint. And as I mentioned earlier, to the north, the setback is 69 feet. And then to the south, 11 feet is being proposed, and all the other setbacks and requirements of the city's land development code are met. This is a northwest perspective of the building, and this is a northeast perspective of the building. So as I mentioned earlier, due public notice has been met. The Planning and Zoning Board did review the plans and the development agreement on May 13th, and they did recommend approval. And the City Community Services Department staff have reviewed this and are recommending approval of ordinance 2024-19 as presented. And if this is approved by the City Commission tonight, the second reading, and this is just, I'm required to say this, the second reading of the ordinance would be on June 11th, 2024 at 6 p.m. right here in the Commission chambers. So if there's any questions for staff, I'll be happy to take those. And as I mentioned, there is a representative from the developer side to give a brief presentation as well.
Would we like to hear that? So Attorney Posey, do you have anything you want to add to what he said, or would you like to wait for questions?
Well, Madam Mayor, we do have a presentation that touches on a few of the things.
Sure, come on up.
For the project.
Okay. Would that be okay?
Yes, yes. Chris, can I have your assistance, please? I'm sorry.
And this is Attorney Posey from Attorney Storage's office, correct?
Yes.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Good evening, Joey Posey, 420 South Nova, attorney for the applicant and also attorney at Storch Law Firm. And Glenn apologizes he can't be here. We had conflicts with hearings, so I'm here covering for this hearing. And I'll try to get through the PowerPoint expeditiously because a lot of it was covered by Stuart. So I'll just touch on the areas that I think are important, the public benefit, the things for the citizens that they can understand of how this is a wonderful project, how this can help the city, and just to make sure that this is a win-win for everybody, that we were in this together. So as Stuart pointed out, the Seascape is quite an old building, and probably it needs a big renovation. And in lieu of renovating it, the idea is, well, if we can attract a major brand, that's probably better case scenario of where we're going to end up at the end of the day. Stuart pointed out the grassy lots, yes, and those would be included as part of the development plan and making utilization of that area. It really improves the entire area because you can just, even looking at that, it's not the most appealing just side view there from the streetscape, and having a nice branded hotel, especially with a lot of the landscaping, the streetscaping, that it'll really just make a very nice presentation from the roadside. And this is the product. It's the Cambria Hotel. It's a upscale flagship brand. It's not the run-of-the-mill hotel. I don't know if anybody's been to a Cambria. I have not, but I've heard wonderful things about the experiences there. They've got a lot of amenities for folks that do stay. You get a lot of that business clientele that likes to stay in these hotels. Those are something that's desirable and needed in the area. That getting that nice branded flagship hotel to maybe say, well, this can support in this area, and then getting those other hoteliers on board with saying, well, if they can do it, maybe I can do it. Reading the tea leaves. But it's a very nice building. It has a lot of amenities to it. There's a bar, restaurant. It's a very nice, wonderful experience for anybody who hasn't been. But the building itself is a very nice building. Stuart pointed out the front view, the rear views, and as I think he also pointed out, that everything is consistent. That we're not trying to deviate except to the extent that we have the building location and the public walkway, which I'll get to. But everything else is permitted. The height's permitted, the density's permitted. All of the other aspects of the code are permitting the hotel. The first deviation, and again, this is really want to be a good neighbor, that if you can put the hotel in a spot where it doesn't impact your neighbors, that's the better case scenario than doing what you're allowed to do. And that was really the consideration from trying to accommodate the shift on the north side, because you have the condominium there. It makes sense. Let's try to push that back as far as we can and put that building in a spot where it can work for everybody. The same, we also want to point out too, because I know this was part of the discussion with the neighbors, that we had the seawall rebuilt. It has full permitting. I'm available with that permit too. And we're also happy to tie into the neighbor's seawall if there is the desire to do so too. So, we want to be good neighbors, and we understand the importance of the seawall, especially with the hurricanes and from a few years ago, all of the damage on the beach side. The consistency, yes, we already touched on this. We're actually, you've got a unique situation where you have a developer who owns both pieces, so you got the ability to do this deviation, because otherwise in a typical development scenario, you would be dealing with the one parcel and then trying to figure out how you fit onto that square. You have a unique situation where you have the same ownership group that has control over the Emerald Shores and can say, okay, how do we utilize best both areas? So that's a unique situation you don't see happen every day. Parking, like we had pointed out, it's going to be valet only. That's for efficiency and safety. That it makes sense from our perspective. The developer has done a number of hotels. Obviously, he owns the Emerald Shores and everything, and he knows his market. He knows what his justification for, and he's provided justification and marketing analysis for what he thinks his demand will be. He says valet can work for me. That's best for everybody, especially since we don't want parking issues either. This is a branded hotel, and that's the same consideration for those folks. And as a consideration for our neighbors too, that we don't want them to go park over there. So we're going to add some signage that says, this is valet, you're subject to towing, you have to, if you're here, you have to utilize the valet service. The setbacks we had pointed out, the only deviations on the Emerald Shores side are to accommodate the existing building footprint. The additional setbacks, again, for the building structure, the plots. to create that shift, you got to shift it all the way to the southerly line on the Emerald Shore side to make sure those the condo to the north has as much view shed as possible. The loading zone deviation is that was an easy one because it's right at the threshold. It's not necessary. They don't need it to accommodate the development. So, and then the green space, and like Stuart pointed out, this property it's hardscape. So you're really taking a lot of hardscape with very little to no vegetation and saying, well, how do we replant this and how do we redesign this? So. If we had a bigger piece of property, that 20% is much more feasible, but given the limitations of what you have to work with and pushing the building to accommodate the parking on site, that we made the best of the situation and trying to get that to that 17 number, which is far better than it currently is out there. The public access walkway. This is obviously, there's an existing access. So as an accommodation and trying to make sure that we are good neighbors too, that we thought it would be best to try to improve that access. And a stipulation that we're willing to commit to as part of that is the developer's willing to give $30,000 to make sure that access stays at access towards the public walkways, in part because that's a benefit for everybody. And you 200 feet to the north, it doesn't make any sense to have another access, and you end up in the same spot. So might as well try to improve what you got than to accommodate another access point literally 200 feet to the north. So that was something we're willing to commit to, and I don't think it got into the conditions, but if it is as part of the conditions for approval, we are stipulating to that. Other than that, the nice part about this is that the current tax base of the Seascape in Daytona is Daytona Beach Shores is the current rolls say it's $9,600. If you do some quick math, the valuation and the taxable ad valorem taxes get up to about $2 billion. That's obviously lawyer math, so they're not hard numbers, but at the same time, there's such a benefit to utilizing the same space and capturing more tax revenue, because getting those commercial ventures to sink their money into upscale brands, there's a lot you can do with that money, and a lot that the public, and especially for the improvements in the city that and you guys have obviously been good stewards of your citizens' money, and this is something that we thought was a positive and we wanted to highlight. Again, and then the spinoff. You obviously get the tourists, you get the restaurants that are desiring a certain clientele and certain restaurant styles that they will want to be patrons of. So there's so many benefits to something like this, and just being excited to bring this brand to Daytona Beach Shores. We're very happy working with Stuart and all of the time and the detail they put into trying to make this possible through staff reports, helping us working through the process. And he's exactly correct. These guys want to hit the ground running. There's full construction plans sitting in my bag right here. So, and and the problem is you got to move while the iron's hot sometimes. And you have an opportunity with a developer who can make this work, and especially with minimal deviations from the code. And I really think you kind of lightning struck here that you got something special, and we want to be. He wants to be a part of this and do the right thing too. So if there's anything we can do better, we're happy to. We did have a meeting with Glenn had a meeting with the folks, the condo to the north, that I heard was a lovely meeting, and there was a lot of there was some concerns that came up, but at the same time, I think everybody understood why this project can be a good thing. For instance, stormwater was brought up, and of course, as we get through site plan, this will be more of an issue that we're looking at from an engineering perspective. But the current plan, the current site doesn't have stormwater. It's a 70s hotel. There's no stormwater. So the new plan, you got to accommodate stormwater. It's going to have underground retention. That's a net. You're already 100% ahead of the game. So in terms of landscaping, there's no landscaping out there. That you have to accommodate that as part of your site plan process. So this is the first step, but at the end of the day, it's a step in such a positive direction, and that we want to be good stewards with these guys, with the neighbors too, and keep them involved in the process. So. If there's anything I can do, or if I'm available for questions, I'm happy to answer them, or maybe respond to any comments or concerns that I may hear. But I'm available for questions.
Before I go on to public participation, what questions do we have from the dais about this group?
I'm not familiar with this. Where are they located? The Cambria brand. Where's the closest one to us?
Oh goodness. And I,
One in Orlando.
that's a good question, I'm not sure offhand.
Any other questions?
No, that's not.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, as I talked about before, whenever we have a new project going into Daytona Beach Shores, two things concern me. The first of all is resident input. You know, I'm gonna be living across the street, so this is not going to infringe on me at all. I always wanna make sure, I understand and I applaud you that you reached out to the Sherwin. The next thing that I always think about is the financial impact to the city. We do not have ATR, or whatever we called it before, so you didn't even ask for that because you know it would have been a no. So anyway, there's no financial impact. So right now, before we take a motion on this, I know we have some residents here from the Sherwood. That is the one that would be directly impacted to the north because the property to the south is Emerald Shores, which is the same property here. So can I hear from anyone, if you wish, from the Sherwood? Did they come and meet with you? Did you still have any concerns after that?
Yes, my name is Steve.
Okay, I'm sorry, it has to be on public record. Your name and your address is fine.
Steve Hopkins, Unit 1203 at the Sherwin Condominiums. I'm the Vice President of the Homeowners Association.
Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you for having us. We did meet with the engineer and the attorney for the project. We had a great meeting. It was a couple hours long. We probably had 15 residents, attend the meeting, and another half a dozen to a dozen on Zoom. I think at this point, the Sherwin supports, the new Cambria Hotel. We do have some concerns that as they go through their engineering phase and, developing the plans and things that we'd certainly like to address with them. But I think in general, we're pretty happy with, what they've done so far.
Is there any questions that either the city or community service director or Attorney Posey can answer for you that weren't answered previously?
Not right at the moment. I did get, I had some questions on the seawall permits. He did hand it to me today here at the meeting. I haven't had a chance to go through it. But again, it's a 1950 style hotel. That seawall is probably at the end of its useful life, so I'm sure that the developers, don't want to put a $20 million hotel, behind something that's going to fail in a couple of years. So we think that, as they get through that and do their site work and, do their, boring tests, they'll find, what they need to do to make it secure for us and Emerald Shores.
Thank you so much for coming to speak with us today. Is there anyone else from the Sherwin or any other properties in Daytona Beach Shores that has anything to say? We have one comment in the back, if you'd like to come forward, please. When you come up, please state your name and address.
My name is Elaine Shizkowski, 2555 South Atlantic Avenue, the Sherwin. I apologize, I'm afraid I don't have my reading glasses.
That's fine.
I'm amongst the people who only learned about this a couple of weeks ago. I already had a doctor's appointment scheduled, so I couldn't attend this meeting, but the meeting is somewhat irrelevant because I would consider this my victim impact statement because this has ruined my investment in my future. And I've been waiting a couple of decades to enjoy a quiet retirement. And if I may just speak briefly, I have some notes. I was told when purchasing my overpriced Sherwin unit that the motel property was nowhere near large enough or appropriate to be transitioned into a higher rise building complex. Although these were there were much less expensive units available for sale when I was buying at the peak of the market, in part because of the family tendency toward claustrophobia and avoiding closed-in spaces. I was very much attracted to the satisfactory ocean view of my 3-bedroom unit, and mostly I was impressed by the large panoramic view of Daytona Shores, its developments, its open spaces, and primarily the pretty much panoramic view of the Intercoastal Waterway, which I will mostly be losing. I can also see the water tower, the lovely mid-century architectural feature of the top of Daytona. And let me just,
Fine.
I'm sorry, I don't know if I have a limit, but I'll try and speak quickly. Along with the privacy factor of not having anyone looking into my unit, up at my unit, watching me while I'm swimming in the pool. I used to play water polo, but I'm still not a beautiful swimmer. And I really do enjoy the privacy. In fact, when we had our window replacement project, I made the decision not to throw away the blinds in my living room because I don't turn on my lights at night for the turtles, and I enjoy having the windows open. So I've been through decades, nearly, of I guess I've literally weathered these decades of burdensome, noisy building improvement projects, multiple hurricanes and repairs. And now, when I'm approaching my golden years, I'm losing the property value, both literally and in terms of my experience of it. In fact, most of the value to me is the panoramic view, the openness, and the privacy.
The time's about up, but go ahead and finish with your last thought, please.
I'll try to go quickly. So anyway, additionally, I just want to say there'll be increased crowding on the beach, less open spaces, building at a time when we have increasing storms, intensity and frequency of these high rises right on the water is not good. It's also going to be a risk for us with demolition and construction vehicles and equipment and cranes. I mean, we have storms year round now. This could be risk to us. And some may be tempted to characterize this as a boutique hotel, but I am a Choice Motel Platinum member myself, and this is really not a big deal. I have been visiting similar type properties around Daytona, and I'm sad to say that they're not really holding up well, and they're not really upscale. And one of the advantages of our building and a lot of buildings is that as opposed to transient people coming and going, we have people that come back with their families year after year, and they stay for a month or multiple months. And along with our full-time residents, it makes it a satisfactory, safe feeling environment. Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Attorney Posey, I'm going to ask you, if you want to either, if you want to just, we listen to comments and that's it. Ma'am, if you'd like to go maybe in the back or out in the hallway and see if Attorney Posey, does anybody else want to hear the answer that he's going to talk? It seemed like the rest of you folks did not have that unique problem. Do you want to hear how Attorney Posey wants to address that, or can he take that conversation offline?
I'll certainly be happy to listen in on the conversation if he wants to.
Okay, all right, if you want to address some of her issues.
And maybe just to quickly touch on it, Joey Posey, 420 South Nova. A few of the things that I do sympathize, because I understand that being your investment, being the place you want to retire, you want to make sure it's the best it can be. I think where I would disagree is that I don't think there's one hand you could say that a 1950s style rundown motel is equivalent to a upscale luxury brand that it's upwards of $20 million investment, and I just have a hard time believing that, especially since new investment creates synergy. It creates a desire to see those numbers go up when you're talking about return on your investment, even as a homeowner. And the other thing to keep in mind too is that the development is trying to accommodate them too. That there's no deviation in height, there's no deviation in the number of units, or anything of that nature. The deviation is really to set it back further than we're allowed to set it back. So that's something to keep in mind, and that's really a consequence of having the landowner that controls both pieces of property. And I understand that, having maybe seeing something, becoming accustomed to a certain view is one thing, but, again, there's a landowner with the same rights and entitlements that he's allowed to build. It's not to say he couldn't build an 8-story building closer to the building. And there's no way he would do that, but, he has just as much of a right to his property as much as they have a right to their property. So, that's something to keep in mind, because he wants to do the right thing. I just, characterizing this as, a loss, that it's gonna be a devastation to an investment, I hesitate to say that, because I am very confident that this is going to be a net benefit. This is something that'll be a catalyst for them, that you're gonna see something very nice, and then you even have a easy location for folks that even want to stay, that say, hey, now we have a place for visitors, that have a very nice accommodation next door, that's set back 70 feet from my property line. So I just want to touch on that, and I'm happy to talk afterwards too, and maybe just these concerns, so.
That would help as well. Just want to clarify, I'm sorry, one moment. I just want to clarify, the Emerald Shores is 8 stories, right? So this will be I'm sorry? 9? Okay, so this is going to be a little bit shorter than the property to the south, is that correct? Yes. 9 stories, okay, all right.
It's actually a little bit higher.
Okay.
I believe it's at 96 feet according to the drawings.
In terms of stories, it will be shorter, but in terms of actual footage, it will be a little bit higher than Emerald Shores, because the ceiling heights are higher relative to when Emerald Shores was built, when the custom practice was shorter ceilings.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I had a question for Attorney Posey. Attorney Posey, we and the Shores are a little sensitive to businesses coming here and saying they're Daytona Beach. And I do see your site plan has Daytona Beach Shores, so will your branding, address, online, that type of stuff say Daytona Beach Shores?
And if I said Daytona Beach,
No, you didn't. I just want to make sure, no, because we do have a lot of businesses here that just say Daytona Beach.
100%. That it's a Daytona Beach Shores brand. You guys are the destination. Now, obviously, Daytona has its own way, but you guys are the destination. Otherwise, he would have chosen to go to Daytona.
Good question, Commissioner, and I would think that would be a plus. With the public safety, we have the cleanliness, the family atmosphere, I would think. I've noticed one of our very, very stables in the city still advertises Daytona Beach. I correct it every day on Facebook. So you're in Daytona Beach Shores, but that's, so any other questions? Good question there. Vice Mayor, any other questions?
I don't have a question, I have a statement, so if you want to finish with the questions, I'll have
Any
a
other
quick
questions?
statement.
Okay. I do have one, and this is, of course, a silly question. All right, so we have valet parking. Is that a 24/7 valet? So if I decide I want to go out at midnight, do I have access to my car?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I would imagine we would accommodate as needed. I don't actually have the developer here to answer that question, but that would be my expectation.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor?
Ma'am, your comments were accepted and understood, as well as, sir, your comments. I guess for everyone else, we can't stop growth as a city commission, nor as a city. There's ordinances, there's permits, there's codes, there's everything. All we can do is control it, to provide the community with the best possible project. The highest and best use is what that terminology is. And based on the artist rendering, based on the history of that type of hotel, I agree with the attorney that I think it's going to be an asset, a catalyst, a synergistic in addition to the community. I think it will enhance the value of the surrounding properties. And I think if it's operated like some of the other hotels are operated here in the city, we've got another asset, another jewel with which to say it's a better place to live.
Can I add one thing?
Certainly.
And, not just as a member of the commission, but a resident of Daytona Beach Shores, it gives me a lot of encouragement that major companies are coming here after these 2 devastating hurricanes, and they're spending a lot of money to actually build and develop it. So if yours gets approved, it wouldn't just be yours. We've got Serena by the Sea, and then the project south of Dunlawton. So I think that I think that is good for everybody. It's encouraging to people who might want to come here and move in the future that, hey, big businesses are coming to spend a lot of money here, and we can maybe buy a home here as well. So I think it's a good thing.
Very good point. Thank you very much for saying that. Okay, I think we're ready to vote on that. Ordinance 2024-19. Do I hear a motion?
I so move.
Okay, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. So we have a motion from our vice mayor and a second from Commissioner Economos. Any further discussion? Any other questions? If not, Sherry, can you take a vote?
On approval of this already, when there's like a second meeting scheduled?
This is first. Please, I don't take any comments from shouting from the audience. Did you want to come back up again?
I apologize. As I said, I've just found out about this in recent weeks. I haven't had a chance to, say, hire an attorney or a court reporter. And the notice that was posted had 2 dates presenting this, presumably 2 dates at which this was going to be presented, and there was going to be an opportunity for feedback. And it sounds like you're getting ready to decide whether or not to allow this project.
And that is exactly what we're doing. This is the first reading.
What was the second date on the announcement about?
Was it at the second reading?
Yes, June 11th.
That's the second reading.
She probably doesn't understand the process. This is an ordinance. In Florida, you approve it on first reading, and then it has to go through a second reading. Sorry. I'll start over. You possibly don't understand the process, which is fine. But in Florida, in ordinances, you have a first reading, and if it's approved on first reading, it comes back for a second reading. And you can come back, you can bring your attorney, you can bring anyone you choose, and have your input. It has to pass on both of the readings in order to become approved.
So it's voted on twice.
It is voted on twice, and that's the procedure in Florida, and you probably aren't familiar with
And
this.
I considered only coming for the second meeting, but thank you for the explanation.
Thank you for that explanation. Did that answer all your questions? Sherry, can you take a vote, please?
Vice Mayor Platus?
Yes.
Commissioner Economos?
Yes.
Commissioner Card?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. Okay, next we're going to move on, and this is just a discussion. We had talked about this in our last workshop that we have. So the system that we are using here on our meetings, we are not using Foley, and I'm the #1 offender. I am back to my paper. But we have the ability to have everything on the screen in front of us, check off. One of the enhancements to it that I would like us to have a discussion whether we would like to approve is a live meeting manager. So what that would do would be the ability, so right now when I'm saying who had the first vote, who had the second vote, we would be able to vote right here on the screen. Our city clerk would be able to see that. So it's just a lot of functionality that I would like to add on to the current system we have. So I'd just like to hear a discussion, maybe any questions. Right now, Sherry and Kurt, our city manager, had a brief overview on it. So any questions that you might have? City manager, do you remember what other enhancements it did? Was it the voting,
But there's voting and.
raising your hand?
Yes, if you, if we're all using the touchscreens, if you want to speak, you hit the, I forget the exact name of the button, but there's a button on there that it provides the mayor like a list of who is waiting to speak on it. Kind of helps control the decorum. And as I said at the workshop, we don't have a problem with the decorum with this commission. I've been around this long enough to know that sometimes you get those commissions, and having a system in place ahead of time would be helpful with that process.
Any questions on it? Is it something that might appeal to everyone?
Is it controlled by the mouse? That's all idea
I believe it's
behind it.
controlled by the mouse. Or is it a touch screen, Sherry? It's a touch screen.
Touchscreen.
It'll be a touch screen.
Yeah, you can do the mouse or touchscreen.
Okay, all right, so if you wanted to speak next, and then I would know who to call on. Sometimes I have to look both ways to see. Sometimes by no means you need to do that. Two people speak at one time, so it would do that. So, any other questions on that? Is that something that you think that we would want our city manager to pursue? Vice Mayor?
I'm not happy about it, but I'll go with the flow. Don't forget, I know how to fax.
All
I
touch, you'll
don't
be.
do emails, I don't do any of that stuff, but I'll go with, listen, if it's everyone's will, then I'll learn, I'll acclimate.
All right, so it seems like you have, do we have a consensus then that we can ask our city manager to pursue this? Come on, we have to get modern here. Your whole thing would be on the screen, you just, you go from next page to next page, next page.
I'll join
We
in.
won't- we
Don't be
won't-
scared, Mark, I'll hold you.
No, I'll-
Do it together. I promise we'll do it together.
From the garden hose and everything.
Okay. All right, city manager, I think we've given you the approval to go ahead and pursue, what would be involved in it.
Becky, do we need to vote on this, or just consensus, okay?
I suggest you take a vote.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, do I hear a motion to allow our city manager to pursue the live meeting manager to our existing city clerk software?
I so move.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so proud of you.
It's really hard for me,
You could not be the second.
I second.
Are any further discussion? If not, Sherry, can you take the roll on it, please?
Vice Mayor Polatis?
Yeah.
Commissioner Carr?
Yes.
Commissioner Economos?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. And I think we're pretty glad we don't have Commissioner Dubinsky here. We're going to get everybody going on it. Okay, the next thing that I wanted discussion on, just checking around with some of the other commissions in our area. A lot of them meet once a month. Now, if we had meetings that lasted 2-3 hours, I would never propose this, but normally our meetings are over fairly quickly. When we do have that, that's our staff that gets off at 4:30 that has to stay till 6. I know our city attorney does not mind at all. She likes to drive all over. But I would like to have a discussion starting in January of 2025 that we do two things, that we change our meeting to once a month. I would like to have it on the first Tuesday of every month, and then pencil in the third Tuesday a month if we need a second meeting or a workshop. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. So Commissioner Hurd?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Economist?
I'm okay with that as well.
Vice Mayor? Okay, all right.
Just want to add that there will be a meeting two meetings will be required in September.
Of every
the
year.
trim process, or the budget process. So we will always have 2 meetings in September.
Okay, in September, 2 meetings. And, there's sometimes too, there's things that are coming up that we'll have 2 meetings, but the policy will be that we just have the one scheduled meeting and then the second one that we pencil in. So can I have a motion to well, at this point, is it a vote to go ahead with that starting in January? Attorney, can you explain to me, I asked you if this was a charter change and you read some documents for me. Is this a resolution we need, or what do we need at this point?
We can just do it by resolution. There's nothing in the charter that talks about anything more than 1 meeting a month.
Okay, great. So would you write up a resolution for us?
Sure.
Okay, all right. So I would like a vote to give Attorney Boyce marching orders, if you will, to write up the resolution for 1 meeting a month. Do I hear a motion?
I so move.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, if not, Sherry, take a roll, please.
Vice Mayor Polatis?
Yes.
Commissioner Economos?
Yes.
Commissioner Carr?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. Sherry, I do want to say this is working out just wonderfully. You can look down at us and know who's talking. Next, we're going to go on city attorney comments.
Nothing this evening.
Thank you. City manager, do you have anything for us?
Good evening again. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Just one note that I want to point out for the commission and the public. We are in the process at City Hall of replacing the carpet and some other flooring. It's been in there about 20 years. It's been time, but it's causing us to have to move some things around. So starting Monday, we'll have some of the finance folks and some of the building permitting folks working in the back room behind here, and also we'll have tables set up here, and we'll be directing customers to the community center while that flooring project is going on.
And how long do you anticipate that will take?
I'm
I know
hoping,
you have 2 floors, so.
I'm hoping 3 to 4 weeks, Stuart. Is that maybe longer?
Potentially a month and a half.
All right, so 4 to 6 weeks. Great, but we will have signage to direct them to come here. Okay, great. All right, well, thank you. Anything else?
Oh, that's it.
Okay, any questions for our city attorney or city manager before we move on?
I do. Are the cars on Peninsula that drive towards the entrance of Publix, is that a result of the repaving of the parking garages for the condos? or-
Well, not so much pay, there's been a lot of construction and a lot of problems at Ocean West.
Okay.
That we have allowed them to park down by our tennis courts, off to the side here too, and it seems like they need even more spaces. So they did contact the county, so remember, that's county property, that Brim right there. Is it really called Brim? And they are allowed to park on that property. Does anyone happen to know, did we give them an end date to park there?
That's actually state control.
state, oh.
And I don't believe they have an end date.
I used to talk to the county to mow that lawn.
It's soon to be county road. Turn it over, the state is.
So that Brim there was, okay. All right, thank you. You know, what I don't like is the grass, you know, we're after them to have the grass cut down, and now with the cars there, they can't do that. But anyway, that's the reason for that. And I do feel bad for that particular condo or those 2 condos, because this has been, Nancy, would you say 2 years that we've tried to help them out with parking? It's been about 2 years. It's been one thing after another. So let's be kind to our neighbors. They don't like that walk any more than we like seeing that there. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we'll go on to commissioner comments. I want to start, first of all, thank you to everyone that attended the Armed Forces Day last Saturday. If you weren't there, you missed a wonderful, wonderful event. We had Colonel Dr. Hal Kushner there. He was a prisoner of war for 5.5 years, and he had the most moving story. If you left there without choking up, I don't know. It was just a wonderful, wonderful service. Thank you, Director Maddox, for arranging the Navy to come. It was just a wonderful event. We had a barbecue afterwards. So again, thank you to everyone that came, and thank you to you and your staff, Nancy, for putting that together. The next thing is, I just want to tell you, last week I was in Washington, D.C., courtesy of the American Flood Coalition, and what they do is deal with sea level rise and the feasibility in trying to prevent things. Well, floods can't be prevented, but what happens as a result of that. So right now, we had elected officials from 4 states there. We were allowed, the Florida delegation met with Congressman Waltz, Congressman Mills, and then State Senator Rick Scott. So we were able, you know, again, I put my plug in for the beach, the Army Corps of Engineers. We need an engineered beach. And so they were very, very receptive to that. I would like you to speak a little bit about that, City Manager. Is not the county doing a feasibility study right now that they will probably partner with later on?
Yes, they are. The county is doing a feasibility study with the money provided by the state. I believe it's around $80 million the state set out, which will also include north and south sand restoration projects. It's my understanding that the portions that they can, they are trying to contract with the Army Corps of Engineers to do those for them, so that when they actually submit for the Army Corps study, it'll almost all be done. I oversimplified that process,
Very,
but
very much. So in other words, it looks like, I mean, there's no promises. That is our end goal, to get our beach to be an engineered beach. Because not only do they come in and you have an engineered beach, but also they maintain, and that's what's very, very important. So anyway, that's what I was doing in Washington DC last week. So it was a pleasure to be there and represent our city. Commissioner Card, do you have any remarks?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Economist?
Just thank you for your service and looking out for all of our best interests. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
And other than that, I don't have any
Oh,
comment.
thank you so much. Vice Mayor?
I went to the Transportation Planning meeting on May 22nd, so I have some great info.
Great.
I really like that place. I tell you, they do such a great job. So we are in District 5. 4 out of the 9 fastest growing counties are here in District 5. And that's why we have so many projects on the books. They're going to light up the sign that says "Welcome to Daytona Beach" during the summer in red, white, and blue for patriotism. The designs are done for the interchange at LPGA and 995, so they're going to totally redo that entire interchange, as well as the entrance that goes back towards Margaritaville and all those other projects. Now it's going to be collecting the construction dollars, and then they'll start on that project. Pioneer Trail, that interchange is going forward, and the permitting process is actually underway now. And then they're going to do another one for State Road 40, believe it or not. The plans are starting now. That won't happen another 5 to 7 years. So they are also getting grants to redo the airport for taxiways and runways. And then they say that there's a shortage of truck parking spaces for these tractor trailers. And so they're going to make some here in Volusia County and along the I-4 and I-95 corridor. They say they need several hundreds, and they only have like 50 or 60 of them. So that is a big project. The land has a train station that used to just serve as Amtrak, but now they're redesigning it. And actually, I was there a couple of weeks ago. I took the train to Tampa. It was really cool. But that track is being renovated to accommodate the Sunrail. So they've already started construction there and well underway. And then I found out what SUN meant. So SUN meant, hold on, because I got to go to my notes. SUN means shared use non-motorized. So anytime you think a Sun Trail project or a Sun this, that's what it means, shared use non-motorized. I think it was in the paper, but the lady that runs the Votran, she came in, Miss King, Elizabeth King, and made a presentation that even though we get a lot of money from the federal government to fund Votran, it always operates at a loss. So they had to raise the fares, but they're also going to eliminate a lot of the fares, and they're doing this where you can call and the buses are smaller. I mean, really trying to maximize the taxpayer dollars. And then lastly, they handed out this Central Florida Safety Strategic Plan, so I'm going to leave the booklet with Sherry if any of my commissioners want to view it or any of the residents want. Kaya Powell is the FDOT representative that we have, and she's really smart. She's got it going on. She says there are grants available for these sidewalks that we want to have with the lights on the road and stuff. They're slowly working on that. And then lastly, instead of being called the Transportation Planning Authority from river to sea, I think what they're going to do is rename it, since now we've brought in all of Flagler, so it's going to be called the Volusia Flagler Transportation Planning Organization. And they're actually moving into a new permanent location. We currently meet out at the airport. But it boggles my mind, some of the things that come up and how these other mayors and vice mayors throw in their problems with their places. And they've got problems, more so than we do, especially on the west side with the congestion and the influx of people like in DeBary, Deltona, DeLand. Here we're blessed that there's only so much real estate, and pretty much the only things we succumb to are the special events. But we too have a lot of pedestrian traffic and a lot of traffic issues, I'm sure Director Fowler would tell us. But again, it's my pleasure to report back to my commission and the residents. the results of me attending the meeting, and I'll leave this with Sherry at the end of the meeting.
Well, thank you very much, and we're a voting member now, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, they gave me a speaking part.
Okay, well, we're glad we have you this year.
By the way, when I was a non-voting member, I still spoke.
Okay.
But anyway, I get to vote now.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again for representing us. Any other comments? If not, we'll go on to, we have an audience comment. Dan Morris, if you'd like to come up.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. I'm Dan Morris. I'm representing the Chamber of Commerce here for Port Orange, South Daytona, the Shores, and Ponce Inlet. One of the things I wanted to do was thank Nancy Miller early, because next week she's going to help lead our Government and Economic Day with our Civic Youth Leadership Experience. And that's where 22 young kids in the 10th and 11th grade, they're going to go through and learn everything about city government. They're going to learn everything about how communities work together, how businesses come together. And Nancy's going to actually kind of moderate our mock city council. And the kids actually have just a blast. And last year she did a great job. She's been a very big supporter of the chamber, and we really appreciate her.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Dan, thank you. Anything we need to recommend for the next agenda? Okay, nothing at this time. So if not, the meeting is adjourned.